Okay, so we are going to look at day 2 of midpoint. And guys, this is on page 16. We are actually going to go 6 through 8. We did that in class today. So really, we are just going to answer numbers 4 and 5 on this video. So if we're looking at number 4, this is probably one of the hardest examples that we are going to do with midpoint. So it says the midpoint of a segment is located at 1, 2. So that's my midpoint. I'm just going to write this off to the side. Midpoint is 1, 2. Okay, and it says one endpoint is located at 4, 3. Okay, so I have an endpoint at 4, 3. It says, what is the location of the other endpoint? Well, the endpoints are what we use in our midpoint formula to find that midpoint. So what I'm actually going to do is to find our x value of our midpoint. So to find this value right here, what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to add your x1 plus x2 and then divide that by 2. Okay, so basically I know my x1 is 1 because, I'm sorry, I lied. I know my x1 is this 4 because that's one of my endpoints, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and put a 4 in for my x1. Okay, I don't know what my other x value of my endpoint is. So that's that x2. I don't know what that is yet. But I do know my x value of the midpoint is 1. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to solve this equation to figure out what at least the x value is of my my other endpoint. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of this fraction by multiplying by the denominator. So if I multiply by 2 on the left side, I need to multiply by 2 on the right side. And what that does is cancel those out, and I'm just left with my numerator 4 plus x. 2, okay? And that's going to be equal to 1 times 2. Now to solve for that x2 value, all I have to do is get it by itself. So I'm going to subtract 4 on both sides, and that gives me x2 is equal to a negative 2. So that means the x value of my other endpoint is going to be negative 2. Now I need to do the same exact thing with my y values. So to find the y value of my other endpoint, I'm going to say y1 plus y2 over 2 is going to be equal to that y coordinate of my midpoint. So that's going to be equal to 2. Now again, I know what my y1 value is. It's that first endpoint there. It's that 3. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and enter 3 for my y1 value. And then, again, I'm going to get rid of that fraction by multiplying by 2 on both sides. And once I multiply by 2, those 2's cancel on the left side, and I get 3 plus y2 left. And then 2 times 2 is 4. And the only thing I need to do to get that y2 value is subtract the 3 on both sides, which gives me y2 is equal to 1, which means the y coordinate of my other endpoint is 1. Okay. Again, that's probably the hardest example dealing with midpoint. So if we have questions on that, please make sure to ask in class. Okay, looking at number 5, we already did this a little bit with distance in the last lesson that we did, but we are going to kind of practice this with distance and midpoint this time. Okay, so for part A, it says, what is the length of DJ? So if we're trying to find the length from D to J, what we need to do is take our highest value, negative 20, and subtract our lowest value, which is negative 75. If we do that, these two negatives become positive, and negative 20 plus 75 gives me a positive 55. Okay, so that DJ is 55, and we can say units or just put the U there, which means units. Okay, now part B is wanting to know what the midpoint of that is. So with midpoint, what we do is we kind of do it like our formula. We add the two numbers together and then divide by 2. Okay, so we take that negative 75 plus a negative 20 and we divide it by 2. Okay, so negative 75 plus a negative is really like just subtracting. So it's negative 75 minus 20, which is negative 95 over 2, which is negative 47.5. Okay, so that's where my midpoint is going to be. It's going to be at negative 47.5. Okay, so then let's look at our next letter C. It is wanting us to find the length of JA. So we're going from here to here. We're taking our biggest number, which is 60, and we are subtracting our smaller number, which is negative 20. Again, that negative becomes positive, and 60 plus 20 gives me 80 units. So that is 80 units long, JA is. And then it says, well, what's the midpoint of JA? So again, we have to add our 2 together. So we're taking negative 20 plus 60, and we're dividing by 2. Okay, so negative 20 plus 60 gives me 40, divided by 2 gives me 20. So that means my midpoint is going to be at 20. Okay. Our last one says, well, what is the distance from D to A? Okay, so we want to know that distance. Again, with distance, we take our biggest number, which is 60, and subtract our smaller number, which is negative 75. Okay, a double negative becomes positive. 60 plus 75 gives me 135 units. Okay, and then like it asked with in lesson, lesson 4, I think was our distance lesson. It says, how are the lengths DJ, JA, and DA all related? And the way they're all related, so A, C, and E, the way they're all related is that they're all positive, because we cannot have a negative distance. So all lengths are positive. Okay. Okay, and that's going to be it. Like I said, we went through 6 through 8 in class. So we just had to finish up 4 and 5. If you have any questions, please bring them tomorrow to class.